Ford Carnival City 400 Extreme Off-Road. Round 8 of the ABSA Off-Road Championship is presented by Ford and Carnival City. After more than 5,000 kilometers of racing in no less than 7 different races throughout South Africa and Southern Africa, it's finally come down to this. It's the Ford Carnival City 400, and they start off with a prologue over 3 kilometers and then out on the road for another punishing 48. The prologue starts over my left shoulder here, and it will certainly ask all the interesting questions. Questions such as, will Hannes Grobler win the National Drivers' Championship? Will Toyota pip Nissan for the manufacturer's title? And who will win the 6 classes that still have not had a clear-cut winner emerging from them? Will the by now traditional rain at the annual event make things interesting again? And then there was that championship question for points leader Alfie Cox.
Yeah, look, the championship's been a good one for me the whole year, and we've had quite a few wins, I think 3 or 4 wins. But it's down to the last race, and sure, I don't have to win the race. I'm 3 points in the lead, so Hannes has got to win. But if I come second to him or just finish behind him, so there's that old story about sticking to a guy like whatever to a blanket. That's obviously what's going to happen at this race, and the championship is more important. I mean, to win an overall off-road championship, last year the Class D, but you know, this year to have the chance to win the overall would be really great. I mean, it's something that we've worked hard all year to do, and I just hope that the race goes like it's been for the rest of the year, sure.
Hannes, it's obviously a very big race, but you've been in this scenario before, 2001, 2002, you've been here before, so you know what to do.
Yes, I'm looking forward to this race. It's always nice to get to the end of the year and you know that you're going to fight for the championship on the last race. You know, it's good for the spectators, for everybody involved, for the sport as well, and I think everybody is going to enjoy it tomorrow.
I find it amazing. The last time I was involved in the sport, it's evolved immensely from the last 10, 15 years. What's different for you from, let's say, 15 years ago to today?
You know, you can't really compare it because the technology grew so much, you know. I mean, it's like Formula One. You've got small engines now that makes the same horsepower as what we made 10 years ago, you know, and also the suspensions are 100 times better, you know. So the cars have got smaller engines, but they're a lot faster, you know, and I'm very glad to be still involved in it and to be able to drive the cars with the new technology.
Manfred, it's all come down to this end of the season and a lot to play for.
Yeah, it's a bit difficult for me now. You know, all you have to do is finish. Ford is sponsoring the event. It would be nice for the sponsors and for all the Ford supporters, you know, to be up in front. But unfortunately, one has to look at the bigger picture. We're out here to win the championship for the year. And basically, all you have to do is finish, and that's what you're going to go for.
The route here, what are your thoughts? Because I know they've changed it, but the terrain is the same, and it is a terrain which can hurt the car and driver.
Yeah, I found out last year. We took a whole front suspension off, hit some rocks, so we know all about all the rocks and everything. Yeah, but you know, not having any pressure to win the class, you know, we can take it relatively easy on the rough sections, and then on the fast section you'll be going fast, and then over the rocky you'll just going over very cautiously.
That's a solid tactic. For others like Cliff Whiteholt, who had a big prang in Cape Town early in the season, it was a welcome return to racing.
Well, actually, to be honest, we haven't done much testing with the vehicle now, so we actually finished it last night. But all the small stuff takes time, so but it's been good to be back. We're not very good spectators. We're going to just go and test this year because we've got nothing to prove. So hopefully it'll go well.
Toyota's Gavin Cronje has had an up and down season, or should that be a rock and roll season?
Well, it's been very up and down. We mid part of the season we were leading the championship, and going into the Lesotho we had a bit of a roly-poly, and that's really put us on the back foot for the rest of the season. We had a misfortune at Lydenburg, but certainly the last event of the year, and we want to go out with the glory, so we're going to tie our best.
Take us back to Lydenburg. Give us some detail of what happened.
Well, we had a really good first day. Second day, a very open section, and we really struggled with the mainline speed. And the third day, we knew we had to push in the rough, and unfortunately, we hit a rock in the wrong place and took a front wheel off. So that was us out.
How hard was that on the car? Have you had to virtually rebuild?
They've had to do some strengthening on the front left of the car, and we're fairly confident that the job done is as good as ever, and my team did a great job, and I'm sure we'll be out there full swing.
full swing is what a lot of drivers had in mind as they prepared for the prologue. In the production car class, it was Cox and Ralph Pitchford who were leading by those 4 points from Grobler and his co-driver Francois Jordan. It was a two-horse race at the top, but only one category, Class B, had been won. 6 of them were looking for new owners. For Terence Marsh and his navigator Michael Whitehouse, it's been a long season.
Yeah, it's right. 7 events later throughout South Africa, a couple of neighbouring states, 5,000 kilometres of racing, and here we are, the final one. It's going to be a humdinger.
It's amazing that it does come down to this right at the end of all of that racing.
Yeah, I think as I always say in our to sponsors and supporters, and that is that 8 hours of racing and 500 kilometres, and it works out in seconds. So the same thing has happened over the season. It's come right down to the wire.
Mike, I want to know from you, how hard is he to work for in the hardest seat, I should say?
They say it's a difficult seat to be in, but the nice thing about Terence is everything is about a calculation, and our strategy is let the race come to us, which is obviously we're going to do this weekend, but you're going to pedal a bit, but we're most excited.
What is the strategy for the prologue? To put us in the picture there.
Well, the bottom line is the prologue is we're going to try and finish up in front of Nick Harper, and then he has to race us, and we can dictate the pace from the front. So we'll see how it goes.
For Ernest Corbett and his nav Warwick Goosen, the strategy was completely the opposite.
Go as fast as I can.
For as long as you can.
For as long as I can.
But that's obviously not easy to do in this terrain.
I'm not sure about what it's going to be like out there. I think it's going to be quite rough. But with these cars, it's actually a bit of a goma. So, but I go definitely as fast as I can. It's the last race of the season. So, it doesn't matter if you break something, really.
But Corbett Sr.'s attitude was very different to his son Mark, who had some new horses under the bonnet.
Yeah, we're looking forward to this race. We had a good run last year, winning overall. So we rate our chances here. We've got a new engine in the car for this race. After Leidenburg, we blew the motor because the throttle stuck. But we're going to have good fun today.
The route is obviously a very taxing one. How do you approach that, particularly on the second day?
The route is very much suited to a special vehicle here with quite rough. There's quite a few copies we've got to go through, and hopefully we can give the production vehicles a run for their money.
And all told, the South African off-road scene in very good health at the moment, it seems.
It seems to be. The guys are buying new cars all the time. The second-hand cars are selling, the new cars are selling, so it's looking really healthy for next year, definitely.
And at the end of all of this, do you see yourself as the South African champion?
You've got to see yourself doing something, otherwise you're not going to make it. But we'll see what happens at the end of the day.
Evan, as they would say in the casino, no more bets, all done.
Yeah, we're very happy about it. We managed to wrap up our championship at the last event, so fortunately for us, no pressure. We can really sit down and enjoy the event, which doesn't mean we're going to hold back at all. In fact, what I'm going to do is really going to give it a full go, because we've got nothing to lose. We don't have to worry about conserving the car or trying to take it easy or not breaking anything. So we're going to give it a full go, and we're going to see how if we can really go and mix it with the big boys. At the same time, I see there are many of the big boys out here today. All the big guns are out here. So it's going to make for some interesting racing. But we're having a good weekend. We're having a fun weekend. We've got a lot of family and friends around, so we've been able to enjoy it without that pressure. We're very happy about that.
As we take in an aerial view of the impressive complex at Carnival City just outside Blackburn, the battle in the special vehicles with Marsh and Whitehouse, who had a slender 8-point lead over the Harpers, with Clint Gibson and Marcel Trethroux in good nick in the last few weeks, coming off a fine showing in Leidenburg. Onto the prologue, a testing, windy and tricky 3K section bordering the casino, and the defending SA champ Grobler first up and away at what always seems a suicidal pace. But Mr. G is always superbly in control. He was second fastest over the 3,000 odd meters and clocked 4 minutes and 16 seconds. Gerard du Plessis and Fadi Seegers in their Jimco 3.6 were also flying and set a mark for most of the space frame cars to aim at. And that's exactly what Mark Corbett and co-driver Jean Moore went for, to set the quickest time possible over the short start to the prologue. The softly-spoken driver was hard on the throttle. But someone's had a spill. That's the car of championship contender Alfie Cox taking a breather, lying on its side. The log leader had rolled it, can you believe? And that could be his championship hopes gone. Not 2 Ks into the prologue. More, though, piled on regardless. Cox and Pitchford did get the car back on its wheels, rode another 100 metres, and then the electrics went. But from the outside looking in, it didn't look pretty. The proudly South African Nissan hardbody had taken a pounding when it rolled, and even though Pitchford and his driver were hunting for the fault, it looked like it was tickets for the national title. Or was it?
Yeah, look, it's one of the most nervous things to drive a left-hand drive car, is when you're sliding on a corner and there's a hole in the corner, and it hooked in the hole, and obviously it just went over so quickly. So yeah, it's one of those things.
That's the end of it all, is it?
No, we can take you know, time and a bit, and then sure, if we still finish second tomorrow, we might still win the championship. It's not over yet, definitely not.
Mr. Positive himself, but it didn't look so great. For Atang Makgeganene and Henry Kerstein, though, it was looking very rosy indeed. They were throwing everything but the kitchen sink at their run, and it proved worthwhile as they returned a top 10 time, but almost lost it themselves right there. The super team car of John Weir-Smith and Des Fischer started off in a hurry, and he took on the first two jumps with gusto. The Koparang Hotel Jimco was literally flying along. Gary Bertelt and Siegfried Rousseau in their advanced soft bat were 9th on the A-class log. They had a win at the Nissan Sugarbelt 400 way back in March, but could not finish in Polokwane and didn't score enough points in the Toyota Dealer 1000 in Mpumalanga either. As for the Super Pave team, Rob and Gareth Walk, they had one eye on a place in the top 3 on the log and another on a victory here in Brakpan. The Chenoweth and Full Cry sounded good. Bevan Bertelt and James Kennelly in their I-burst bat also started off like a house on fire, but then Bevan has got a reputation for a man who either flies over the trouble or flattens it. The revelation of the latter part of the season, though, was Clint Gibson and Marcel Trethry in the Gibson Plant Hire bat. They notched up the fastest time on the opening short stage, following on from a fine win in the Leidenburg stop. They were 5th on the championship log. Will Batterseel and co-driver Reg Sutton were next, and they were experiencing electrical problems which slowed them down. But their Rob Steel Structures Jimco was also sounding in good voice. Marsh and Whitehouse were looking for that old off-road marriage of speed, consistency and caution, but they knew that to win the championship they had to perform, and perform all the way through the almost 600 kilometers of racing. The Harpers, Nick and son Ryan, were going along well and were still on a high from their victory in the Lesotho 400. They'd been ultra-consistent and were looking for a 6th consecutive finish. They were just a few points behind Marsh and needed a win. The Nissan crew were also looking out for the super production hardbody as they'd run it in the previous 2 races. This class will be introduced in 2006, and the Japanese motor manufacturer was hoping for a good outing on the East Rand. To top that, they had the Hungarian crew of Sandor Kez and Peter Chegladi in the 4th hardbody, turning out for the red and silver liveried outfit. As for the other big-name Japanese make in South Africa, Toyota, they were in with a shot at the manufacturer's title, trailing Nissan by just 33 points. But they were also without Marc Cronje, who had a horrendous 8-time roll in Leidenburg. Their first SP car was debuting with Cliff Barker driving and Chris Birkin calling the route. The big SP is obviously handling well. Why? Well, these in-car pictures tell the story.
As you cross the car road, go left. A little bit more. Okay, here, left. After the second jump, flying finish.
For the sponsors of the Ford Carnival City 400, there was only one car left, Manfred Schroeder and Alec Harris's big Ford Ranger. The other car crashed the night before as it was being taken back down to the start, so Schroeder knew that the pressure was on. Chris Visser and Jaapie Badenhorst in the Tyco Toyota Hilux notched up a 4-minute and 48-second clocking, which left them middle of the pack in the 70-plus car field. The newly crowned Class B champions Motorride Racing's Evan Hutchison and co-Trevor Ormerod notched up no less than 5 wins in the season, but the small man had got lost a few times, and here he gets back on the route. It also demonstrates just how dusty it was out there. The Plastotech Raceco special class car of Richard Schilling and Chris Davies was also moving well, and they seemed to relish the dry and dusty conditions. Out on the 48k loop of the prologue, Cronje and Houghton were busy putting together a top 10 time for the 48ks. Dom Thompson and his navigator Wally Pule and their Zarko stunned all and sundry by clocking up a time good enough to leave them in the top 10. A great drive from them on day one. Nandus Alberts and Colin Hunter had prepared their car well, and the Ace-Co was doing the business for them. They were just outside the top 10 after day one's toils. Going for a world record 21st finish in a row, Henry Zamat and Bodo Zwegler were, as always, in one word, consistent. Their Obi Mitsubishi took them to the edge of a class championship. The Total Motorsport porter Shamir Variawa and VZ Van Zyl was once again in contention early on. They flew past Bodo Bertolt in his Boss Manufacturing Orco.
What happened here, we were going along nicely and suddenly the steering got worse and worse and worse. I would turn the wheel and there was no reaction. And then I could turn from left to right, no reaction, the car just went straight. The whole steering box is disintegrated. So we had to pull out. There was no way of going further at all.
Out of the 7 South African championships that had to be decided in the year 2005, only one has actually got a new owner. That's why the racing is all out here on the East Rand at Carnival City.
Duncan, how did that go?
I think quite well. Judging by our time so far, I think we're pretty quick. I was a bit worried because I couldn't, the guy in front of us stopped, I don't know whether to let us through or whatever, and then we didn't see cars for quite a while, but eventually we caught the other guys, so I'm hoping it was a good run.
And car going well?
No problems, car is beautiful, yeah.
But for the Nissan pit crew, the day would turn into a long night. Team manager Glenn Hall.
Well, yeah, I mean, this is off-road racing and this is a competition, so I suppose it can happen. And after Alfie being in such a strong position before the time trial starts, because really only had to come second to Hannes in the race, and this happens. But this is going to be a challenge, I think. If we can get the car fixed to finish the time trial now, and you can get a reasonable position, we're going to have a hell of a race tomorrow, and character building stuff.
Richard, how did things go with you out there on the time trial in the prologue?
Yeah, it was good. Problem with the route. I think everyone's had a problem with the route today. The route's basically very nice, but the marking's not good. I'm surprised. These organisers are known for good marking, and so you kind of trust the route schedule, but we went on a few route marches today.
But they were not the only ones.
Manfred, how did that go? Very well. Except you got lost a couple of times, and we took it very easy. I mean, over the rough stuff, and yeah, everything went according to plan. I mean, the bucky, I don't think there's anything to do except fill up and to be ready for tomorrow.
I've been talking to the competition, and I must tell you that they're very aware of you, right on their butts.
No, I mean, even Chris Fisser caught us, so he made up 2 minutes on us, so he's flying, and yeah, no, I mean, we just let him past, and we know what we have to do, and that's what we're going to do tomorrow.
Hutchison and Ormerod were going well and had no visible signs of trouble after finishing, but they had what the boys in the sport call a moment.
Yeah, we had a little bit of a moment. I think we were off the route slightly, running next to a tar road. 6,000 RPM in the fifth gear, 160, and we came across a big water slit, and unfortunately straight into it, hit on the other side. And all we could see at the windscreen was ground, and I thought we were going to roll, but managed to land back on his feet. So we're very happy about that.
You want to give us an insider's tip of how you avoided rolling it?
Oh, well, with the back kicking up, all we could see was the ground in front of us, and I could feel the car moving to the left, so I tried to correct it, hoping for the best, and it seemed to work out. When it landed, we managed to correct, and yeah, half skill, 3/4 luck.
Well, the proudly South African Nissans again brought home the bacon, but not as expected. Duncan Vos and Henny ter Steege took first after the day's racing by 28 seconds from Weir Smith and Forshire, with Bertolt and Rousseau a further 34 seconds back.
Playing Australia in Australia is a daunting challenge.
A stronghold that cannot be taken by force.
They are some of the best cricketers in the world.
Proven by history. But where others have found only failure, a true leader sees opportunity.
And we're ready for the challenge.
The South African tour to Australia, live on SuperSport. The journey begins on the 16th of December. Proudly delivered to you by RAM Hand-to-Hand Couriers.
Keeping you on the cutting edge of worldwide sport. The incredible time-sliced SuperSport Update channel. Offering you factual information on every sport. Get results, lead stories, commentary and more in updated 30-minute slices. The exciting SuperSport Update channel on Channel 24. sizzling series on DSTV this December.
Skylar, that is quite an outfit.
Oh, I'm sorry, too much?
Too little. Just right.
Could be an adventure.
I like adventure. She adds excitement. She livens things up.
Party girl Pam finds a new job and turns over a new leaf.
Who would I like to meet?
11 single New York women go online in the hope of hooking up
Andrew.
with Mr. Right.
Is my hair all right?
This is disappointing.
Brad just smiles at me 3 times and I'm picking out wedding china.
You're a woman. Manipulate him. That's what we do.
So you want me to lie?
Yeah. And if you missed them first time round, make a date with the housewives of Wisteria Lane. So much more holiday entertainment.
Oh, God, this silly night, but it's got to go. Look how it's going. Look at it, yeah, perfect.
And all we're going to do is peel the pads.
The cream of the entertainment crop. The best showmen in show business. The most dynamic TV personalities on the planet. We're not available.
Action! Cut!
A double dose of the Super Saturday team this weekend.
Go!
Those storm clouds up above have in the last 4 or 5 hours deposited almost 100 millimeters on the East Rand, and for most of the drivers and the navigators as well as their teams, it meant different approaches and a different way of racing on day 2 here at Carnival City for the Ford 400 event.
After very hot, dusty and dry conditions on day 1, it needed a bit of a mind shift to wet, cold and muddy conditions on day 2, and then some teams needed to shift a few tyres as well.
Duncan, you obviously got the time you were looking for yesterday. You must have been quite impressed yourself, actually.
I was, because after the time trial, you know, we didn't have a really good run. We didn't get a rhythm going because the route schedule wasn't that great. So, but obviously we've done better than other guys, so I was happy, yes.
The rest of the team obviously truly amazed with a great job that the Nissan squad did with Alfie's car.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. If you'd seen it just after it finished the roll, I thought it was, I didn't think it was going to start again. But yeah, they've got it up and going, and Alfie tested it last night, and it sounds perfect.
Zane, all smiles this morning. You put together a very good prologue yesterday.
Yeah, it didn't go too bad. We got a bit lost, but we're fairly happy with the result. We have to do extremely well today to win the championship. We're only a couple of points behind Chris Visser, so it's flat out the whole way.
Is that how you're going to approach it? Spare no horses?
Yeah, absolutely.
And conditions today, obviously, it's vastly different to yesterday. Are you contemplating tyre change, or what are you thinking?
No, we're going to probably reduce our pressures a bit, but it's going to be a bit slippery out there. But fortunately, it's going to take the dust away.
Thomas, tell us about your prologue day yesterday.
It was an absolute nightmare. We had a flat a puncture on the front right. We then lost the spare wheel. Then we couldn't get the jack off. No, it was a nightmare.
Other than that, everything was fine, was it?
You know, we broke the front shock as well. Steering column broke as well. So no, it was an absolute nightmare. But the car's fixed, back together again. So yeah, we're hoping for a good day today.
So the crew went without sleep through the night, I would imagine.
Quite right. Back to Pretoria to get spares, and the car's back together. So yeah.
Bevan, how do you guys approach the weather conditions as compared to yesterday?
Well, we're quite lucky in that we're actually not starting first, we're starting 17th. So there's 16 guys ahead to sort of show us the road. And over 520 Ks, I think you just got to make up, you've got to get through the first part of the morning and hope that it starts to clear. And the track will get very fast in the afternoon. So that should help, you know. I think also with the mountain, with a rear mount car, that's a little bit of an advantage for all these sandmasters, the mid mounts. So there's 3 or 4 advantages we've got over there. And I'm just going to back it off and slowly pick them off, you know.
From a navigator's point of view, how different is it to work in these sorts of conditions as compared to yesterday, or doesn't it make any difference whatsoever?
Well, it was very difficult to navigate yesterday. We're going around so fast in the car, your hands are bumping all over and knocking the odo, and you're constantly resetting. We'll see how it goes, honestly, I don't know. Hopefully it'll keep the mud off the stickers.
Gerard, what's the attitude for today?
Jong, dis baie nat, so ons gaan net probeer want die pad gaan glad wees. So ek dink ou moet maar net probeer die voertuig in die pad hou.
So die belangrikste ding is om die ding weer in een stuk terug te kry hier op die ou einde.
Ja, want ek dink dit gaan redelik rof raak vandag. Jy gaan slip en sluit almekaar.
En die een ding wat die reën daarin wegvat is die stof. So is dit 'n plus of 'n negatief?
Ja, dis 'n plus, maar jy weet as dit so nat is dan gaan jy nie vorentoe nie. Jy gly die hele tyd so. Ek sal stof as die wind waai stof lekker, maar anders dan nie.
With stadium announcer Hendrik Vervoort announcing the starters as they left for day 2's loops totaling 530 k's of racing, it was Vos and ter Steege who set off first. Where Smith and Fischer were next, and they were flying along just as they did on day 1. Conditions? Come on, what conditions? But maybe the slide was a little overdone here, and a spectator had to beat a hasty retreat. Gerard Duplessis and Foudy Segers were ready to take on the big-name teams, and after their fine 4th overnight, they were ready to improve on that. They were 3rd in class. Yawa and Van Zyl had but done 2 Ks, and the Total Motorsport livery had been covered with mud, proof of the huge thunderstorms that had spilt its load on the East Rand. Grondier and Houghton were leading Class D in their Castrol Toyota and had gone steadily enough on the prologue to take 6th overall.
Third jump, yeah.
Harpers were also going quite sweetly after the start. Mark Corbett and John Moore and their Century Property developments were all over, but eventually got away on the first loop of just more than 100 kilometers. As for the rest, it looked like the revenge of the tyre factory as cars slid and dived all over the route trying to get some traction. Tyres everywhere and none to use.
There aren't all that many mountains to climb on the East Rand, but Alfie Cox in his Nissan certainly has a mountain or two to climb today. He starts 26 minutes behind the defending champion and his Nissan teammate Hannes Grobler in pursuit of his first title in the ABSA South African Off-Road Championships. And he certainly is going to need all the mountaineering skills he can muster today.
Cox started 30 minutes down on leader Vos after the time penalties he received, but the motorcycle dealer from Pietermaritzburg was about to give one of the best displays of driving of the 2005 season. As for Gary Bartelt and Siegfried Rousseau, the tree just jumped in front of us, officer, I swear. Luckily, there was no serious damage. They were 3rd overall and 2nd in class. Vos and ter Steege had clocked the 2nd fastest time on the short part of the prologue and had cracked it wide open after that. And on day 2, they just picked up where they left off. But their windscreen wipers were on a go slow, and that cost them dearly. 5th placed overall, Duplessis and Segers were still milking their Jimco for all it was worth and still literally leaving the works teams with mud on their faces, their cars and everything else. Further back, the racing was as tight as it's been all season, but the surprise of day 1 was Nissan's Hannes Grobler and co-driver Francois Jordan, who could only finish 16th overall. They'd lost an estimated 6 minutes due to getting hopelessly lost, and they knew that to win the national championship for a 4th time, they needed to pull out all the stops. But the conditions early on day 1 on the first loop didn't help them much. Corbett and Moore dropped back due to some serious alternator belt problems, and it would eventually lead to their retirement. Grenier and Houghton were going smoothly but had to avoid some of the traffic parked on the side at a slightly strange angle too.
Down again. 500 meters, turn 90 left. 500 meters, turn 90 left.
Variawa and Van Zyl had started off in 5th place, and they were holding station right there through some consistent driving in very taxing conditions. Thompson and Pula had started off in 8th, but had dropped 2 positions in the first short loop, but they were still right on song. As for the motorized pairing, they were going at it hammer and tongs. The first cars had left at 8:30 in the morning, and the sun had already started drying things out on the first loop of 100+ kilometers. The cooler temperatures also helped the car's engines, and overheating was something to worry about later. Well, for most of the cars anyway. Schroeder and Harris were sticking to their guns, but even so they picked up almost 10 places from 28th overnight. In this sport, consistency certainly pays. Frikkie Labuschagne and Rikus Erasmus and their Toyota Hilux were 26th overall and had themselves nailed a few on the way into the second slightly longer loop of more than 160 k's. They were into the top 20. The Toyotas were certainly packing them in, and the Nissan team must have been a little worried with all the red and green of Castrol packing so closely together. And luckily, the teams were warned about the train crossings. One man who was going like a train was Grobler. The 3-time and defending national champ was running as if on tracks and never missed a beat, moving from 16th to 3rd overall. That's quite a bit of passing, Mr. Grobler, isn't it? Shamir Variawa was battling a faulty gearbox, but he was still handling his super production car very well. Duplessis and Segers were on a mission, and they were moving up from 4th to 3rd and would keep on climbing up the standings with some fearless driving and a Jimco that was just too happy to be punished severely. Meanwhile, Thompson continued his giant-slaying act and just piled it on the whole time. Around the Suikerbosrand area on the East Rand, it gets mountainous and very tricky, but by mid-morning the mud had almost disappeared and it was ideal, just wet enough not to have dust. Gary Bartelt and Siegfried Rousseau were enjoying the conditions. The Super Pave team with the walks led as this trio followed the same line through the water and on to the second longer loop. After that there would be a 15-minute break and then back in the saddle for exactly the same 2 loops yet again. Will Battershill and Reg Sutton had finished 14th overall after day 1, but were experiencing 1 or 2 electrical problems which slowed them down a little. For Atang Makhaganene, it was a little strange being behind the wheel again. He hadn't raced for a few months and was feeling a little rusty. Still, he and Costain were cruising well. The Toyota Hilux of Labuschagne and Erasmus were still picking up spots, and for them, the drive was clearly a great joy. Henry Zamatin and Bodo Schwegler and their Ryobi Mitsubishi were just inside the top 20 and made our camera do a double take at the water splash. But the drive of the first loops of the day undoubtedly came from Cox, who was absolutely blasting through the field. He was 52nd when he started off in the morning, but had picked up no less than 24 places. The Harpers had been sent the wrong way by Marshall at one stage, but other than that, the father and son combination was solid out there, looking for the SA National Championship in Class A. The hilly and wet conditions combined to wreck a few cars' bodywork, particularly on the production cars, where the wide bodywork sometimes got in the way of a slightly faster or expedient line through a few corners. On the second and slightly longer loop, the racing got even tighter and a lot of cars were right on each other's tails, producing every man for himself racing that took a mammoth amount of concentration. Ford Schroeder was looking completely in control. Zane Pierce in his Toyota Hilux was going well in Class E, but Marsh and Whitehouse in the Nashua car wanted to pass and made no bones about it. Okay, man, go past then. All Chris Visser was worried about was which way to go to get to the finish of the second loop for that 15-minute stop. Ernest Corbett and co-driver Warwick Goosen had moved slyly from 22nd to 11th and were putting together a super drive as well. Barker and Birkin in the debuting Toyota SP were impressing with a solid drive and a car which looked willing to take on the challenges of the new year. Richard Schilling had starter motor power cable problems, but was able to keep things moving along very well. While the Bosel Landy of Mark and Stuart Moffat was steady enough to be second in Class F. Arnold Duplessis and Johan Knox in their Nissan hardbody was in 25th place overall. The biggest loser on the first part of day 2 was Duncan Voss and co Henny Terstegen. They had dropped 17 places due to a loss of wipers and then a severe leak from the power steering tube. This forced them to return to the pits. The 2005 Ford Carnival City 400 continues after this.
We could tell you you can't afford to listen. We could say it's the ultimate event in the series. We might hint at where it's held. When and what it is, or where to find it. It's not just hype, it's the Vegas Cup final.
West Hollywood super stylist Jonathan Anton is putting it all on the line and taking a shot at making it big in Beverly Hills.
I never thought I would be opening up anything in Beverly Hills.
All he has to do is renovate the salon, hire the stylist, manicurist, makeup artist, and turn it all into
one of the greatest hair salons ever.
This could be the best idea or the worst mistake he's ever made. Blowout, Fridays at 7 on Mnet Series, Channel 36.
The sunshine that warms my skin, warms my aspirations and my ambitions. It is in this light that I will find my challenges, overcome my weaknesses, and earn my rewards. It is in this light that I will find myself. Supersport presents the Dunhill Championship at Leopard Creek, proudly sponsored by Dunhill.
The Ford Carnival City 400 was the last of 8 events on the ABSA Off-Road Championship, and for the Nissan team it was make or break. Hannes Grobler was looking for his 4th national championship and had gone from 16th to 3rd in the morning's drive. A great performance.
We had a fairly good day. We moved up quicker in the field than we anticipated. I think the mud helped us a little bit. We don't know what's going on behind us with Alfie. You know, as we know, we must win, and if he comes second, he wins, and if he comes third, then we win. So we're trying our best just to stay out in front.
And what were the conditions like? It started drying out on the second loop, did it?
Started drying out a bit. It's still very tough because the road is very rutted now. We slid and had a flat tire. We hit a rock and we had a flat tire because of the conditions. It's quite difficult finding the route, but I've learned my lesson yesterday, so I'm there.
Duplessis and Seegers were through their 15-minute stop after some food and drink and a refuel for the car too.
Marcel, let's just get a quick word from you. How are you guys going?
We're going very well. It's been a rather difficult morning. It's muddy, it's wet out there. Everything is wet and can't see where we're going. So, yeah, but we're having a good run.
How are the conditions? Have they improved on the second loop once it started drying out a bit?
Yeah, they've improved quite dramatically. The route's drying out, the top layer's coming off. There's even dust in some places, believe it or not. Huge water splashes as well, though. It's also, I mean, it's a bit of everything. You put your bars up to get rid of the mud and you get a mouthful of dust.
I think you're also holding on for dear life because Clint's going very quickly today, I must say.
Yeah, my driver's driving like a star, absolutely. We've had 1 or 2 little donuts and 360s on the way, but we've got away with them, so now we just see if we can hang on for the next 256.
How are you guys going out there? Everything going nicely at the moment?
Well, we're going nicely. Everything is okay. The car's good. We just missed a few points earlier when we had a puncture. But otherwise, we're chasing.
And it seems like you're catching a lot of guys at the same time.
We're trying our best, you know. Hopefully, if we don't get a puncture, we'll have a good finish, yeah.
While you're taking your drink there, after all the shenanigans from yesterday, you guys are flying today.
Yeah, we're really trying hard today. Our main aim is just to pick the cars off one at a time, and we've been able to do that.
We picked you up as 8 minutes faster rather than Hannes sort of halfway through the second loop, so you picked up a few more minutes. You must be fancying your chances of still getting up there and getting the championship.
Sure. We're not too worried about the time gap between Hannes and us. As long as we can just make up places and finish behind him, we'll be happy.
What are the conditions like?
Pretty slippery this morning. It's dried out a bit, and the speeds are definitely picking up now.
Is Alfie behaving slightly better than what he did yesterday after just 3 Ks?
Yes, but getting very frustrated trying to get past all the slow-moving traffic, but I'm trying to keep him in control.
Cox had picked off cars like they were toy soldiers, and the Dakar motorcycle star was juiced with adrenaline after the morning drive.
Well, this morning was really tricky. With the mud, the car battles to turn in, but once it settled down and the heat has come back again, the track is quite nice. We're rough in places, but we're having a good run.
Obviously, the temperature is quite good for keeping the engine going quite nicely because it's not too hot at this stage.
Yeah, I think both for the driver, the navigator and the car, definitely better to ride in these conditions.
And this afternoon, it's go as hard as we can for as long as we can, is it?
Yeah, I think we want to try and maintain where we are, and we're chasing the BB Auto team for first in class, so well, we'll keep them under pressure.
And that they did. As for the rest of the cars, they were streaming in and trying to get to their pit areas as quickly as possible. I caught Marsh just before he boarded the next flight out of there again.
Very briefly, Boyke, I know you've got to get back in. How's it gone?
All was going well. Got stuck in a mud hole and lost 10 minutes here. No one wanted to tow us out, so a bit of a tough one, but a long way to go still, eh? Still a long way to go.
In the Motorride camp, there was a quiet confidence, and Trevor Ormerod was positively upbeat.
I see great concern on the face.
Hello.
How are you guys going?
Yeah, very good. We've had a good run. Lost a bit of time because we stopped to help Terence Marsh, who was stuck in a big donga. So it took us, we had quite a nice lead at that stage. But I think it's still, 250 k's to go. We can still have a full go. Eh?
And you are obviously having a full go because you picked off a few cars, haven't you?
No, we did. We have along the way. But there's a lot of dust out there and there's a lot of mud, and it's difficult. But we're coping.
Alec, I see furious activity here. How did you guys go in the first 2 loops?
First 2 loops, we took the first loop very easily. Came into refuel, we were a bit scared of the distance. I think we've worked out that we should make 2 loops without stopping again. So we did lose a bit of time after loop 1. But caught everyone again. We're lying 3rd in class. We only need to be 5th or 6th in class to win the championships. So far, so good.
And can you feel the pressure in there at the moment, or are you just having a fun time?
We're having a fun time, but we also can't go too slow. Go!
When the lights go out, the race will be on.
Hold correction, runway 12, hold short, runway 7, and be in the car.
Roger that.
All the speed you need on Supersport 2.
Well, that's World Sports. I'll see you again tomorrow.
In the final Grand Prix of the season.
Welcome to the Sydney Cricket Ground. Match point number 3.
With so much sport, you'll also want to get your paws on the power. More than 6 international broadcasters on over 14 separate channels. DSTV, the power to choose. There's so much beauty in Africa, so much hope, so much courage, so much joy, so much to be done for our children. The Nelson Mandela Invitational, so much more than just golf. Presented by Coca-Cola and hosted by Gary Player. Catch the highlights on the 3rd of December in aid of the Nelson Mandela Children's Fund and the Gary Player Foundation. Only on your Channel of Champions.
Just on the other side of the Carnival City Casino and Entertainment Complex, the cars left immediately after their 15-minute refuel break on the shorter loop of just more than 100 k's, and then again the longer second loop of almost 160. Luckily this time the drivers knew where they were going, which would help. By this time of the day, it had got a little drier and slightly more dusty. Meanwhile, Krobler and Jordan were going as hard as they could for as long as they could. The chips were certainly down. Cox and Pitchford with a car that the Nissan pit crew did an unbelievable job with. It looked like it was out for the count, but the boys in red came to the rescue, and it looked like the strong-willed Cox would have a chance of winning his championship after all. Makhaganene had a flat tire in his second loop, but was still going well, although that did not last long. He and co-driver Henry Costain ran out of luck 8 k's from the finish line when they hit a ditch and damaged the gearbox. Meanwhile, the Walks, Rob and Gareth had themselves a great drive and gone from 9th into the top 5 and were still picking off the teams in front of them. The Harper combination was also still right in the thick of things. Although Marsh and Whitehouse, their main competition in the class, were closing in and were picking up the pace on the last 2 loops themselves. Piazza Musso and Nav Okifuri in their Toyota Hilux had gone from 24th after day 1 to 12th. They were looking for their first win of the 2005 season. Hichu and Jaap de Bruin in their Toyota were giving a good account of themselves and were up into 12th place. A superb drive from a team who quietly go about their business. Schroeder was doing exactly as he told me at the start on day 1, getting to the finish line in one piece to win the championship. Zane Pierce and his navigator Henny Vosloo were battling mud in the radiator, which caused some overheating problems, but they were soldiering on. Meanwhile, fitness fanatic Duncan Vos and his co Henny Terstegen nailed down the second fastest time on the 3rd loop. Only 60 seconds behind Gerard du Plessis and Ferdy Segers, who had 2 wins this season, but very little else in between. They won at Sun City and in Leidenburg at the Toyota Dealer 1000. Krobler, who won his first national championship title way back in '86, was still hoping to finish ahead of Cox by a big margin to defend his national title. The special class vehicles were certainly more suitable to the racing conditions and the route at the Ford Carnival City 400, because there were 6 of them in the top 10 and even more after the first day's racing. but no one bothered to tell Alfie Cox and Ralph Pitchford that. They were streaking through the field on the third and fourth loops and were passing left, right and centre. As for the drying out, that was the case on most of the route, but there were still one or two spots where the hoppers in their bat could show off their car handling skills. Hutchison and Ormerod were also still flying along, but they'd missed 2 marshal points on the route, and even as Evan was storming towards the finish line, he knew that that meant an exclusion from the results. The 2 Total Motorsport porters, piloted by Variawa and Makgaghanene respectively, had started chasing each other, but not long after Lady Luck would turn her back on Makgaghanene and Costain. As for Marsh and Whitehouse, they were desperate to win the championship, and their pit crew were a very nervous bunch of supporters waiting for news from the route. Force was still going smoothly and very quickly. While the 2 De Bruins were just happy to keep it on its wheels. Piazza Musa was by now leading Class D, and he was aching to take his first win of the 05 season. On the other side of the coin, the lone Ford representative Schroeder was just looking for a finish to clinch the Class D championship, so he may have lost the battle here, but in the end, a win would give him the war. Barker and Birkin in the Toyota Castrol Team SP were highly impressive, and the car even more so in its first outing for the Japanese manufacturer. With pregnant skies again threatening, Pierce and Vosloo and their Toyota had moved into the top 10 in the production vehicle category and second in class. And that's the sound of the ever-popular Landy with the 2 Moffats in control. It was rolling along nicely. Mark would eventually finish third in the Class F drivers' battle. The patriotically coloured Technochair car of Rudy and Pierre van Graan surprised many pundits when it took 6th place in the special vehicle category. Bevan Bartelt and James Kennelly in their bat were finishing strongly, and their third loop was one of the fastest of the day. It brought them an 8th place in the special vehicle section. At the finish line, though, it was Gerard du Plessis and Ferdy Segers who got there first, with just a few ticks under 8 hours worth of racing.
And winning the special vehicle category, Gerard du Plessis and Ferdy Segers in the Jumco. Well done.
Their crew and supporters were very happy, and maybe that's a bit of an understatement. A third win for them in 05.
Gerard, hoe het gegaan hier op die laaste deeltjie?
Het was lekker, het was rof. Die laaste week 'n bietjie moeg geworden. Ik heb gevoel ek 'n bietjie klaar was.
Konsentrasie bietjie gesukkel.
Ja, en dit word die weer maak dit weer donkerder, dan moes nie moeiliker.
En hoe was die laaste 2 rondes wat julle moes doen teenoor vanoggend?
Nee, vanoggend die eerste loop was baie nat. En die laaste 3 was toen baie beter en droog.
Het julle verwag om vandag so weg te kom en te kan wen?
Nee, ons het nie so verwag nie. Dis baie dankie daarvoor sê, jy weet.
En dit moet lekker wees om die groot spanne se neuse daarin te vryf.
Ja, dit het jy gesê.
Second to appear in the camera's viewfinder was the red and white livery of Hannes Grobler's proudly South African Nissan Hardbody. But everybody then knew that the championship had come down to this, a wait for Alfie Cox. And the crowd was almost hushed as it waited for the final chapter of the 2005 season to play out.
Hannes, not quite sure of what the situation is yet, but tell us about the drive first.
It was very tough. It was 500 kilos, and I'll tell you, it tested man and machine, you know. What made it difficult this morning was that we were running in the real mud you know, and we were looking for the road. So it slacked us down a bit and we lost a bit of time, and then we had a flat wheel as well. But I think it was a good ice drive and I enjoyed the rally.
The next car to appear was the motorized bat of Hutchison and Ormerod, but they were excluded after missing those vital marshal points. And then for the second race in a row, Clint Gibson and Marcel Trethouille surprised by taking a top 3 place and second in their own class.
Clint, very good drive. Obviously, you guys have really caught form in the last few races, Leidenburg and here as well. What's been the secret to success?
We've got a very, very reliable package. The car just works well. Great engine, great transmission, fantastic navigator. I think that's where it all actually happens, is the navigation.
And then the wait was over. After the finest drive seen for a while, Cox came back from starting 53rd in the morning to finish 4th and winning the ABSA Off-Road Championship title by a slender 3-point margin from Krobler.
Okay. Oh, before you go, you must be stoked.
I'll tell you what, it's been a controversial weekend, and to end it like this, they say the harder you try, the luckier you get, but it's just been fantastic. I mean, Ralph did a good job today, and sure, we were the underdogs this morning, but we've kept the hammer down all day, and you know, it's worked out perfectly. You don't just give a championship away like that. Yesterday was just a big mistake to roll the car. But, you know, that's what happens when you're under pressure. And
LB also, it makes 2 South African championships in one household, so you must have felt the pressure.
Well, I tell you, my son, to win it at 7 years old, he's put a lot of pressure on his dad. And sure, I've won many bike championships, but to take an overall car championship, and I think we've made history by having 2 son and a father in the same family the same year. So we'll be going in February to the Motorsport Awards together in our tuxedos. So.
Alfie, also, I think you have to pay tribute to the crew that put this car together, because yesterday after you rolled it, it didn't look like it was going to go anywhere fast.
No, I tell you what, the mechanics at Nissan have been fantastic the whole year. The car's been absolutely flawless, and you know, you can't win a championship without a good product. Obviously, Glenn has had his faith in me, and also the mechanics have just done an absolute... So for them, this is one for them.
Accolades for a team that did miracles. Next up, it was Class A championship winners Terence Marsh and Michael Whitehouse.
Terence, you look like one very happy camper there.
Yeah, that was it was unbelievably hard. It really was, but we played the waiting game. We made 1 or 2 mistakes, but under the conditions it was understandable. But you know, it came to us in the end, you know.
Well, how happy are you right now?
Ecstatic, absolutely ecstatic. It's been long and hard work, and for everybody that's behind us and backed us, it's for everybody. This was great.
For Paulo Piazzamuso and co-driver Oki Fourie, it's been a whole season-long wait, but you know what they say, waiting makes it worth it.
Go! Paulo, quick chat from you. How was the last loop?
The last loop was great. Just here near the end, we nearly got stuck because there was a car in the riverbed, so it was a hard stopping moment, but apart from that, it was awesome. For the Casualty team, I think we've got an excellent result. Thanks very much.
From that point of view, where does this leave you in the championship as you sit in the car right now?
I'm not sure. We have to check the calculations. Obviously, we had a bit of a torrid season, but I'm happy to finish on a high note.
Next up, it was the blue of Ford that crossed the finish line of the Ford Carnival City 400. And for Manfred Schroeder, it was a championship win.
Meneer?
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
And what's that feel like?
Very good. It was a very long day in the office. I think it was one of the roughest routes we've done all year. Yeah, but the vehicle is amazing. I mean, didn't have one problem, didn't have to get out once. We might have lost a panel or 2, but yeah, perfect run.
Well, several of the production cars had donated a few panels out there in the heat of the moment. The production vehicles results and a win for Grobler, but a phenomenal drive from Cox, and to clinch the manufacturer's title, Duncan Vos made it 3 for 3 for the 6-time champions. In the special vehicle class, it was Duplessis and Seegers with a quarter of an hour to spare over Gibson and Trethouille, with the Harpers taking 4th. And the SA national title was won by just 3 points in the end. A fine showing for Ford in 3rd, and Cronje and Birken brought home the first Toyota. Marsh and Whitehouse will be calling themselves the defending SA champions in 2006 in the special vehicle class, and well deserved it is too. And And to wrap up the season, a 47-point win for Nissan over arch rivals Toyota and Ford a distant third. From the Ford Carnival City 400, I'm Arnold Getz saying thanks for watching. This has been Extreme Off-Road and the ABSA Off-Road Championship.